Kind of silly, I know, to be doing this in the morning, but I, for some reason, wanted to try. So, part 2 of religion and... so it's hard for me to decide what to call this. I guess I'm going to call it secular humanism. Christianity and secular humanism. Not versus, but and. And the alternative would be something like Christianity and atheism, but I think that's too narrow. I don't think that quite grapples with the... I mean, it could be secular Christianity, secular humanism, and atheism. But anyway. Okay, so I guess I'll build the basic... I guess there's two prongs here. The basic argument... but it's also, well, basically the topic I'm going to be trying to explore. To properly set that up, let's see here, did I already do this? I kind of already did that part. Okay, so the basic, the first issue that has to be cleared away is something like that Christianity is rightly placed. I didn't say it this clearly, I'll say it more clearly. Christianity is rightly located within its own sphere, which attempts to influence the larger culture, not as an invasion into the larger culture. And I think that Christianity has, particularly conservative Christianity, has not been careful about its influence on the culture and has leaned into a warlike, at least analogically, a warlike invasion into culture proper. And I think it's a huge mistake. I don't think that's the call of Christ. I think the call of Christ is to woo people to the church, not to force people into a position of either detesting Christians because they won't leave them alone or something like that. And I mean, there's issues that are very, very difficult to not force our hand into the culture over. Like the abortion issue is still one I struggle with. I do not advocate behaving badly over it. I think there's enough wiggle room in the issue that we simply need to be opening dialogues, not necessarily voting. I certainly don't think we should be voting for every politician who simply says they're going to get rid of abortion. That's a huge mistake. That is succumbing to the manipulation of votes by clever politicians. That is not an ethical choice. That is not an option, an ethical option. It doesn't help anything to vote for a person simply because they say, "Oh, I'll do away with abortion. I'm against abortion." As you can see, I'm really irritated by that. So, okay. Stepping away from that dialogue because that has been dealt with. Okay, so in this series, what I will be attempting to do is discover to what degree we can talk about Christianity simultaneously as a supernatural, a faith in a supernatural being, and as a naturalistic, and see, that's interesting. Okay, see, this is why I'm having trouble naming this. I was about to say a naturalistic process or belief system, but I'm naming it secular humanism. And I suppose I am because, once again, I think that secular humanism has to kind of encompass, maybe not in a monolithic way, but in a polyolithic way, both naturalism and atheism. Those are slightly different positions, maybe even in a hinge way. If you don't know why I'm saying monolithic, polyolithic, and hinge, look up on my video on that. So, yes, so I'm going with secular humanism. Sorry for how scattered this is. So the attempt is can I speak about Christianity as not being one of those things, as not being either supernatural or naturalistic, but how can I speak of it as both? That's the goal. That's the task I've set myself. So, shall I try to set up my first argument for this? I can set up some introductory arguments. So, for instance, I experience God on a daily basis. I pray, I read the Word of God, and I meditate on them, and I look for answers to my questions, and I ask questions, and I find responses. I find ideas forming in my head. I find insights, and I even hear, not audibly, but I get a sense of an answer, a yes or a no, or sometimes more complicated phrases. All of that, I'm perfectly willing to admit, could be happening in my mind. Obviously, it's happening in my mind whether God exists or not. But what I'm saying is that I'm perfectly willing to admit that I have no scientific evidence that those things are not, that the God I'm interacting with is not simply a God of my own mind, a God in my mind, a God that is just a very, I would have to say something like a very high level thought process that is beyond my conscious awareness. Because it's too clever for it to be something lower level. God is sometimes defined as the embodiment of the highest principles of human understanding and living and surviving and thriving and love and joy and peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, all of that. So if that is what God is, whether he is a sentient being or is a process in my mind, there's a very real sense in which that doesn't matter to me either way. I mean, I hope he's real, because otherwise I do appear to be BSing myself to a degree, because I have experiences that only truly seem true or real, I guess I should say, if he is real. Because if these phenomenon are only in my mind, then I'm actually augmenting reality with my understanding of God at times. Not that I've seen any real miracles, like the blind see and that kind of thing. I don't think I have. I've seen miraculous recoveries, but not anything that I can't say is, well, maybe that was luck, maybe that was a very good treatment. The doctor was particularly not inept, but apt. I don't know. What's the opposite of inept? Skilled. So yeah. So I believe in God to a great degree, because when I do, I take my faith seriously. In other words, if God is just an algorithm in my mind, a process in my mind, it's a really good one. And I take it most seriously, and it seems most effective when I believe that it's real. In other words, if I did not believe that God was actually out there in the universe, it would severely hamper my dedication, my use, and the effectiveness of this process, I would suggest. I have no way of knowing whether that's false, because I haven't truly experimented with disbelieving God, yet still using God as a process in my mind. Why not? Basically because of commitment. I see my commitment to God similar to I see my commitment to my wife. And I don't know how to see it any other way. No arguments for, well, you should be rational and yada, yada, yada are going to move me on that, because if you came to me with a rational argument of why I should divorce my wife and marry another woman, or have join an orgy or something like that, I'm going to say, get out of my face. I am committed to my wife. She is my wife. And that is like an almost existential statement, not simply a legal statement. It is like the embodiment of a universal truth almost. It is that kind of reality, not a reality of I refuse to, or not a reality of, if I have a good enough reason, I'll divorce her. I mean, there's a sense in which that'll get there. If I discover her so completely unfaithful and so unwilling towards reconciliation, and my heart so completely overcome, so completely broken, then staying with her in a sense is not an option, because the marriage would just be hell for both of us. And then it's because of the hardness of our hearts that we kind of have to have a divorce. But I'm saying that is the kind of thing that would happen between me and God, for me to lose my faith in God. So there's the first level of the challenge. If we can see that God can be described as a phenomenon in my mind, but that this phenomenon seems to function better as I believe in it, and I wouldn't go with number one anyway, because I have a commitment and it seems more effective if I keep that commitment, then in a sense I am stating something like a secular Christianity, or a Christianity within secularism. So that's one of the ways I'm uniting secularism and Christianity in this series. All right, thank you very much.